the debates that Americans are having, it's said that we're a polarized nation. That was said in 2004, 2008, 2010 elections. We seem to swing from the left to the right and back. A lot of the debates have to do with the size of government, which has doubled since 9/11, and it's gone from $3.3 trillion to $6.7 trillion if you count local, state, and federal spending. It's literally doubled. Now, part of that were the wars that we had in Afghanistan and Iraq, but that was only part of it. We had to choose. Did we want guns and butter, or butter? And we accepted both. And really, government spending got out of control. Flash back to September 10th, the day before the attack on the World Trade Center. And our problem, hard to imagine today, was what to do with all the surpluses that we envisioned in the next 10 years. And the Bush tax cuts, we forget, were a response to giving back those surpluses to the American taxpayers. It's easy to exaggerate the importance of 9/11. Clearly, it was a pivotal event. It led to the evaporation of those surpluses, partly through war, partly through George W. Bush's and the Republican Party's spending spree of the last 10 years, which they probably would have done anyhow. But after about a year or two, the Federal Reserve really dropped interest rates. And you hear a lot more about the Federal Reserve today than you do 9/11. The Federal Reserve responded to 9/11 by pushing interest rates to historic lows. And people were encouraged, after the stock market crash before 9/11, to go out and buy houses. And we all know we're living with the housing bubble and bust that has occurred since 9/11. And so some people blame 9/11 in part for prompting the Fed and the various agencies like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac for feeding this frenzy of euphoria, housing as an investment rather than a place to live. On the positive side, I will say this. From a historical perspective, the reaction of Americans after 9/11 was far better, far more tolerant than the reaction to our entry into World War I, which resulted in the lynching and harassment of Germans across the country, including Southern Illinois, because Germany was now our enemy. Suspicion of anybody who was foreign, taken to really draconian ends. And President Bush is to be commended for really quieting down the American public, and there were ecumenical interfaith meetings in, I believe, Yankee Stadium, but all over the country. And so there were isolated incidents of attacks on people who appeared to be Muslim. But compared to what has happened in the past, Americans showed a better side of themselves. Now, on the other hand, this country is heavily dependent on high-skilled immigrants. One thing that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and the heads of Google will agree on is this. If it weren't for the foreign talent that they're able to recruit from Asia, from Israel, from Europe, this country could not compete. And 10 years ago, that was easy. 10 years ago, a computer programmer or electrical engineer who came to America, got a degree at SIU or another American university, which is highly prized over in Asia. If he went back home, he or she went back home, he would make only 25% what he could make here in the United States. Well, the whole world knows that China and India have grown wealthier. And in that time, that same person, and I see them, I talk with them every day, Indians, Malaysians, Chinese, that same person can make 75% back home what they make here. And so the spread between rich America and the developing countries has narrowed. And one of the reactions to 9/11 was to make the whole visa process more difficult, to hold up the highly skilled talent that we need. You can walk through the computer science and engineering departments of Southern Illinois University or any major university and look at the teams that are working on the new products for Google, Microsoft, and Apple, and they are predominantly immigrant talent, and that's what makes this country great. We've started to loosen up the process, but really it's a global marketplace, and other countries are now competing for that same talent. So it was a lost decade for many immigrants who could have come here and really made an important contribution.